Hello, everyone.
Hi, this is
How's it
Aisha.
going? Let's see, we have Angelina, Jesus, Alejandro, and Eric. So we'll give everyone a couple minutes before we get started.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is Aisha.
Hi, Aisha. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad. Hanging in there with all that's going on. I just put an order for groceries that won't be delivered until Sunday. Oh, well. All right, let's see. I'm gonna start it here as well. Let's see. Brian and who else? Eric, Jesus, Brian, Aisha, Alejandro, and Angelina. See, who are we missing? We're missing a few people, so I'll wait. I'll wait. So is everyone hanging in there during these fun times? Let me turn my I'm going to turn my background off. There. Now you see the back end of my little home office, which is our dining room. All right. Okay. Still no one else has joined us. I know Fernie was not feeling too well, so he may not join. And so Aisha's here. Missing a couple. Peter, Danny, Daniel, Anna, and Pravita. Okay, so who's C052857?
Hey, how are you doing? This is Peter.
Okay, hey Peter. You know, you can change your display. You just click on, yeah.
Okay, I'll do that.
All right, so I know that it's you when I review the recording. And Fernie's here and Penna's here. What?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon. How you feeling?
Feeling better?
Good, good. I was a little bit worried about you.
No, it's all good.
All right. Okay, Peter, Penna, Pradeepa. I'm really missing Daniel. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. This is going to be a very very quick lecture, very short section, module 11. Basically only 2 exercises. So I know you're all preparing for that, that second quiz, but please let me assure you that it's not too bad. It's not going I'll review that a little bit after the lecture, but all right, so on to module 11. Let's see, just make sure, and this is, the title is basically getting the best out of packages. All right. So to extend the functionality of the database, Oracle includes these packages. Basically, I can tell you right now that most everything that you run in Oracle is a package. And you'll see that in industry as well. So in this first lesson, we'll talk about persistent state of package variables, which is pretty important. Just essentially, when are variables declared, how are they persistent, etc. So you'll be learning how to identify persistent states of package variables and control the persistent state of a package cursor, which is always fun. So the purpose of this is to connect to a database and modify the value in a package variable. For example, from 10 to 20. So basically, you're modifying the literal value. Later, you or someone else invoke the package again, and you read value of the variable, etc. What will they see, 10 or 20? It depends. So we are going to talk about what persists and how you can control this. Real applications often invoke the same package many times, and you do have to be cognizant of what the literal value is when the package is invoked. So it is important to understand when the values in a package variable and are kept and when they are lost. All right, package state. Just basic definition. A package state, the collection of package variables and their current values define the package state. And all that means is that at one instance in time, even when the package or a portion of the package is invoked, you can say that those variables are that, or those literals are that value at that time. So the package state is initialized when the package is first loaded, is persistent by default for the life of the session. Now, hopefully you all understand what a session is. A session is just basically when that package is first loaded as an object. Package state is stored in the session's private memory area. And remember, don't forget about what is meant by package state, and it's essentially associated with literal values of those variables. Package state is unique to each session, even if the second session is started by the same user. So basically, even if you start several sessions, each of those sessions have unique states as far as the packages. Remember that. The package state is subject to change when package subprograms are called or public variables are modified. So just to lower the confusion a little bit, just think of the package state as essentially what are those literal values, variable values at that instance that the package is executed. So other sessions each have their own package state, and they do not see your changes. So between the sessions, and this is important to understand, I mean, when you open up a session, open up a tab or whatever, everything that you run in that session is subject to that session only. With the Oracle Workbench, you can't, at least for our perspective, you're not going to be tasked to run things across sessions. And we won't get into that scenario for PL SQL.
Just a quick question before you move on. When you on the previous slide, would it mention about that each session is unique? Does that assume that the first one is opened and then closed before you start the second, or are you basically stating that the two sessions are running in parallel?
Yeah, they're running in parallel. So once the session is closed, it's no longer a session. Does that make sense?
It does. Okay. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So the sessions are running in parallel or simultaneously.
So one way of thinking of sessions is when you think about user sessions, and that's saying that that particular instance runs for as long as that there is activity. Once you close it, it's done. Like when you log in, you're in a session. Once you log out, we're done.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a good way to explain it. Basically, when you're logged in, you now have a session. Also, when you log in and you open up one of your query tabs, that's also a session.
Okay.
Right. All right. So the following is a simple package that initializes a single global variable and contains a procedure to update. And basically, in our package, specification and body, pretty basic. So we're declaring a variable. And the value of this variable is 10. And basically in our body, we're performing some action on that. And just to grant execute is basically granting this user, as you know from the previous module, the ability to invoke this particular procedure in the package body. All right, so, and this is basically a kind of an illustration of how, let me go back and see that you see the variable in here, this p-var, and the procedure is update g-var, p-var in number, etc. So if you look at these literal values, so we're assuming, and this is a little confusing. So Scott and Jones call the procedure to update the variable. So you have two different users logged on, and they've opened up this package, and they're essentially running this procedure at different times. And so that's what the times represent. So Scott logged on and he ran the procedure, and the package variable value, or literal value, is 10. And then Jones logs on, and the value, and he runs the procedure, so the value is 10. But then Jones changes the value of the variable to 20. So within his session, the value changes from 10 to 20. And you see here, yeah, this is Scott's, whoops, go back. Scott's value here, and this is Jones's. So you see how the value changes. So Scott passes his parameter or changes the variable, or Jones, excuse me, so it goes from 10 to 20. And so it stays 20 for him, but in Scott's session at 9:35, he actually changes the variable value to 50. So it's 50 for him, but it does not change for Scott or for Jones. Excuse me, it's still 20 here. And then Scott disconnects, so his session is gone. And so if Jones is still connected, his value is still 20. And then Scott comes back on, so it resets because he closed his session here. So it's not 50 goes away. So now it's back to 10. Does that make sense to everyone, that whole sequence there? Any questions?
Just a slight question, and I might be overthinking this. Is it the same if the package is called as a subprogram for another application?
Yes.
That the value will remain the same in that application, and then it can be a different value for a different application?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. All right. So, and then this is just an explanation of what I just went through as far as the sequence of the values and how, and yes, please don't overthink it. It's pretty, and believe me, it took a while for administrators and programmers to ensure that when you're calling a subprogram in this manner in a package, that it is that persistence of that value is to that session. So as Fernie said, basically you will have in industry, you will have several applications calling a package simultaneously, and all of those sessions, the values are persistent. So just remember that. All right. So persistent state of a package cursor. Remember what a cursor is simply I think of it as a snippet of the database held in a container to be used in any subprograms in any way, so that, and it's very different than a select statement where you can process several rows at a time. So the cursor declared in the package specification is a type global variable and follows the same persistency rules as any other variable. So just remember, a cursor state is not defined by a single numeric or other value. A cursor is generally whatever you're using it for. A cursor state consists of the following. So whether the cursor is open or closed. If open, how many rows are being fetched? Remember, you can fetch one row, you can fetch several rows. And then whether the most recent fetch was successful, whether it produces a found or not found. So with cursors, it's a little bit different, but generally the concern is the cursor open, and then how many rows are being fetched or used. So the next 3 slides show the definition of a cursor, and its repeated use basically in a calling application. All right, so in this package we have a declaration of a cursor, and it's basically one that we've seen before. This is an employee cursor, where we're creating a container of all of the employees and all of the records in the employees database. So then our procedure basically opens the cursor, and our function fetch basically in rows where it ends is 1, and then we close the cursor. So the cursor so the explanation, the cursor declaration is yeah, I said that already. Therefore, any or all of the package procedures can reference it. So, and the package procedures here is just one, it's an open cursor, and the other one's just a function where essentially we're passing one row in this very, very basic function. So whatever, this will return one row from that cursor, or one row from the employees table. And here's essentially the package body. For that specification here. And you see that we have the function here, employee ID, etc. And we actually have a begin and loop through our cursor, just as we've always done before. So this is just a very basic way of putting that cursor into a package, and then we can fetch with however many amount of rows that we would like to process. So as before, step 1 opens the cursor. Step 2, basically creates a loop where you're fetching the appropriate rows based on the loop. And then step 3 closes the cursor. And you've all seen this before. And this is just signifying what's actually happening in the cursor, in the procedure of opening and fetching and closing and looping through and closing the cursor. Now, do you all see this one? What we're trying to illustrate is that basically in this package, this package can be called in several ways based on the application and depending on what the user is trying to accomplish. And it will do the same thing based on the parameters or based on the values of those variables, etc. Let's see. the first loop call to fetch in rows displays the first 3 rows. Let me make sure the second time around, yeah. So basically, if we're fetching 3 rows, and it's just walking through essentially, in this particular example, our fetch number rows is 3. So, and we all know essentially how our cursor works. It's just, I'm just re-illustrating essentially what you're doing in this package with this cursor. And I guess, and once again, don't overthink this. It's just using a cursor within a package that may be called several times by different users. All right. And yes, this technique is this Boolean technique where basically you're wanting to make sure that cursor is created. If it's true, then basically you're going to loop through the cursor. So this is just some standard modular type programming where you can use this in any scenario as far as the application, as far as applications are concerned. And that's what we're trying to illustrate here. All right, any questions about that? Any questions about, yes, please don't overthink the whole idea of how a cursor could be a part of a package. A cursor is still a cursor, and it really depends on your scenario. And the whole idea of a cursor is so that you can process more than one row from a table at a time if needed. So basically it'll loop through each of the rows in the container of the cursor and provide your particular information. All right, so from lesson 1, our primary term is package state. And remember, the biggest thing about package state is what are the values or the literals of those variables at the instance that they're being called as far as a subprogram within a package. So think of the persistent states. Generally, a variable is in a persistent state, or a package is in a persistent state as long as that particular session is live and the user has not changed or asked for a change in the variable value. Generally, controlling the persistent state of a package is, I would just say it's based on whatever the usage is. And the cursor in a package, you know, I've often used, well, cursors because cursors are good because you can utilize, you know, the whole table or a part of the table based on what your application needs are. So, all right, any questions? All right, and as I said, this week is you only have 2 lessons or 2 sections in module 11. So it should go pretty fast for you. As a matter of fact, the 11 and 12 are pretty, I don't know. Can someone tell me, did I separate 11 and 12 as far as the requirements due this week, or did I combine them? I can't remember if I did that in this class. I know you're all curious, so, and can you all still hear me? Yeah. Everyone's so quiet.
They look separate.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Did I separate those in this class? Because I know last year we had to combine them.
Yes.
Looks like 11.1 is due tonight, and then 11.2 is due on the, I forgot the date already, so.
So yes, just to reiterate, 1 is due tonight, and then 2 is due Sunday. And then yes, next week we have 12. You guys have made, and 12 only has two sections, but you're all probably worried about the exam. All right, so let's segue to that right quick. The exam opens up Monday. It covers generally the topics it cover are module 4 through 10, but basically there are 4 questions you're going to be asked to create 2 procedures, 1 function, and then you have to evaluate a package. and answer the questions within the parameters of the exam. So as promised, I'm going to give you a very brief overview since, as a matter of fact, I'm going to even give you a kind of a heads up on the first question in the, I'm not going to show you, but I'm going to provide my interpretation of what I created in the quiz. All right, so just because you're so patient, well, the parameters of the instructions of the quiz are as such. The questions in the quiz are truly open-ended. Well, not truly open-ended, but basically you can use any of your notes, any of the material that you have access to. The grades, they won't be graded until I specifically review them and then grade. And I have 5 specific components or criteria for the grading. The code structure and efficiencies, which means, as I spoke to last week, I mean, the way you're structuring your code, your syntax, indentations, even casing. Are you using a certain approach as far as upper and lower case? Do you remember all of those crazy rules that we talked about way back? But primarily, I'm looking for you to essentially showcase your method by following some of the best practices. That's number 1. Number 2 is syntax. Obviously, if the syntax is wrong, then the program won't run. 3, solutions and answers to the questions. I do put that down as number 3 because I am more interested in what your thoughts are as you begin to build these subprograms. So yeah, there should be not particularly a focus on the right answer, but I'm looking for the most efficient approach. And then yes, comments. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say for these 3 areas, it's going to be weighted a certain way, saying there's more weight for the syntax or more weight. I don't know. I'm just curious. Or is it?
No, they're not going to be weighted a certain way. I'm just reviewing these 5 components. They're all going to be essentially equal. As much as possible. And the reason why I say that, basically I'll recognize right away with your structure, if you're approaching this as like a programming exercise as opposed to just searching for the right answer. So then number 4 is comments, and then number 5 is exception handling. And so as I stated, whenever I'm asking you to write any code, you should have exception handling, but now I'm asking you to add comments to your code. General comments, there's no such thing as over commenting in my mind. If you use common sense, then it's not a problem. All right, so for example, question 1 basically states, create a procedure that will receive first name and last name as input parameters or in parameters and return detailed employee information from the employees table. Now remember, whichever version of the employees table that's adequate, I think the employees table is, I think that's not one of the working tables. So for example, first and last name, and then the return will be address, email, phone. So that's, and then essentially make sure to include an exception, obviously. So that is question number 1. And then you have two very similar, and then essentially a package that you have to evaluate and follow the instructions to complete. And what I'd recommended, or what I am recommending, is basically go to the questions, copy them to an external doc, work on it in the external doc, and then upload that. You do have the opportunity to upload that back into the quiz. That's what question 5 is. Question 5 is just an upload prompt.
Question. So this opens when
It opens Monday, April 6th.
and closes when?
It closes Sunday, April 12th.
Ah, okay. And it's only one submission.
Yes, only one submission.
Can we
Okay.
upload a SQL worksheet?
You can, yes.
Okay.
Okay. So when we say we are evaluating is just based on the questions that have been asked, or based on what we believe. I'm evaluating is guided by the questions.
Are you referring to question 4 or?
Yes, I think it was question 4. You're saying you need to evaluate something.
Yes. Basically evaluating, just looking at the code.
So we look at them code and make comments about the code structure.
Yes, well,
Or is it guided by specific questions, or we're going to evaluate it based on our best practice that we've been discussing so far?
yes and yes. So you're asked to evaluate the code, make sure that it follows your version of best practice, and then there's some specific questions that you have to accomplish.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, other questions? So once again, that's the exam. 4 questions, opens Monday. Yes, opens Monday, Monday the 5th, closes Sunday Monday the 6th, excuse me, closes Sunday the 12th. So we will meet again before the exam closes next Tuesday. So if you have any,
I'm hoping on Tuesday we are allowed to ask questions that
yes.
are related to the exam.
Well, I was just going to state that, and let me elaborate. You can ask questions, but I'm not going to provide any specific answers to the questions. You can ask questions about what you've already done. It says it's due the 16th. Yeah, okay, so I'm giving you 2 weeks to do it, or to that Friday.
That's good.
So you have tons of time to do it. So it should be very, very nice. I'm not going to accept any type of rudimentary work. All right. So thanks for pointing that out, Angelina.
Is this our last quiz of the semester?
No, you do have a final,
Oh, geez. Okay.
which is very similar. 2 weeks to procrastinate. Well, come on, Brian. You're not going to procrastinate, are you?
It seems like there's not much time between this quiz and the final. There's only about 4 weeks-ish left.
Yeah. Yes.
So this is open for 2 weeks, and then our final is open for 1 week, then it appears.
Right. And just to let you know, this is I treat this as final part 1 and then final part 2 because they're very similar. Which is why I'll give you 1 week for the final. You should have your practices all down so that, and you'll see how I'm going to grade it. So yeah, you'll understand what I mean. Any other questions? So you're all good to go, right? All right.
We good. I'll speak on behalf of everyone.
Okay. So do we have more in the chat? As for makeup work, can that still be submitted? Yes, you can still submit any of your work that you miss.
So last week I forgot to do my practice 10-1.
Right. So
Are you saying that I can do it?
you can do it. Anything you miss, you can submit.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Yeah, so I didn't make that clear, but I want you to do the work as opposed to not doing it. So
Okay.
Will there be any extra credit opportunity between now and the end of the semester?
maybe. Who's that? Is that Eric
No, it's for Nate.
or Fernand? You don't need extra credit for me, but maybe.
I mean, it's still relevant. It's still a relevant question.
Yeah, it is a relevant question. And really, I'm going to gauge that on how everyone does on this exam, because this is important to me, how you respond to my little prompts.
I did have a question regarding the grading. So I know in the syllabus, I know, I think based on what I saw in the syllabus versus how things are showing up on Canvas, the grading is not the same. Which way are you going?
As far as the point totals, just go with Canvas. I
Okay.
just haven't changed the syllabus to match. So go with what's in Canvas, because I had to rejigger the original course, but I just haven't changed the syllabus. I apologize for that.
Okay.
Anything else? Let's see. Did everyone show up? Daniel's not here. All right.
Yes, I am.
Daniel, are you here?
Yeah.
You're Mr. Oh, yes, you are here. Okay. Yes, I don't see your name. 1, 2, 3,
Oh.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Who are we missing? We're missing someone. So raise your hand if you're not here. That always works.
By the way, how many are we?
There's supposed to be 11 of us. 1, 2,
And what was the starting number?
oh, we do have 11. I feel like I'm missing someone. No, we're all here. I guess we're all here. Never mind. Except for Shul. Shul's not here because, she's a new mom, so she's exempt. All right. Well, that's all I have as far as what's your billable rate, Peter? Peter has a billable rate for what? Advice?
I'm not too sure anyone can afford it.
Okay.
It's gonna be upwards of 100,000 or 200,000.
All right. Okay. So thank you all. I will see you all next week. Don't panic on the exam. You'll all do fine. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all. Take care.
Mhm.
Thank you.